my dear students, welcome back to my channel. In today's class, we will be discussing about work done in stretching a rod and the elastic potential energy. We will also be solving problems related to Young's modulus, bulk modulus, modulus of rigidity. We will also find the variation of density with height. Also, we will find the relation between different modulus. Let's start with the class. The first thing that we will do today is we will find the work done in stretching a rod. Now, you know that a rod behaves like a spring. When you try to stretch it, a restoring force will develop inside, and that restoring force will be against the opposite to the deforming force. So, in stretching a wire, you have to do this work against the internal restoring force. The work that you do is stored in the body as elastic potential energy. So whatever work that you will do will be stored in the body as elastic potential energy. Now suppose you have a massless rod and a mass m is attached here. Okay, or you can apply a force F here, whatever. So mass m will apply a force of gravity here. Okay, instead you can also give one force F to this massless rod. Okay, now suppose at any instant the elongation is x. So this rod has elongated by a distance x due to the external force. The force can be anything. Okay, it can be due to gravity, it can be due to muscular force, okay, or it can be any other force. So F by A, we are applying Hooke's law here. F by A is equal to Y delta L by L. Now at any instant the elongation we are assuming is X. So I am writing delta L as X. So F is equal to AY by L into X. Right? Now suppose dx length is further increased by doing some work. Then dw is equal to ft. Okay? So dw is equal to fdx, where F is the external force. So F is equal to AY by L into X multiplied by dx. Because at that particular instant, the force applied was AY by L into X when the stretch was X. Now you are further stretching it by a very small distance dx. So you will write dw is equal to F dx, that is equal to AY by L into X. From this, when you integrate it from X equal to 0 to X equal to delta L is the final stretch. Then you will get work done by the external agent is equal to AY by L into delta L square by 2. So this is the work that is done to stretch the rod by a distance delta L, and this is also equal to the potential energy stored. Okay, now again you know that stress is equal to Y strain. So F by A is equal to Y delta L by L. Now here you can write this as half into Y delta L by L, Y delta L by L multiplied by this A remaining and one delta L also remaining, multiplied by A delta L multiplied by L divided by L. What I have done here is I have just multiplied by L and divided. Okay. From here, if you will see, Y delta L by L is nothing but stress. Delta L by L is nothing but strain. And area of cross section multiplied by length is volume. So you will say that the work done or the potential energy stored can sometimes be written as half multiplied by stress multiplied by strain multiplied by volume. So you can remember this formula using half stress into strain into volume. So work done by an external agent in stretching a rod by length delta L, or you can say the potential energy or the elastic potential energy which is stored in the rod is equal to half into stress into strain into volume. Half into stress into strain. Then there is a term called energy density, which is energy per unit volume. So energy per unit volume will be equal to half into stress into strain. Okay, so energy per unit volume will be equal to half into stress into strain. Again, you know Hooke's law, F by A is Y delta L by L, right? Listen carefully now. We are comparing it with a spring. You know that an elastic rod just behaves like a spring, right? F by A is equal to Y delta L by L, which implies F is equal to AY by L into delta L. Now, AY by L is a constant, right? A is area of cross section, L is length, and Y is the Young's modulus, and delta L is the elongation or the compression depending on the force is tensile or compressive, right? Now if you compare it with a spring where the spring force is given by F is equal to kx, then x is what? Stretch. Here delta L is what? Elongation. Both are the same thing. Okay. K is the spring constant. Here this is the constant of the material. Okay. The elastic constant of the material. So definitely this can be compared with this. Okay. So you can compare the elastic force with a spring force where the spring constant has to be replaced by this Ay by L. That's it. And the stretch is delta L. Now we know that the spring potential energy is half kx square. So just replace k by Ay by L. Just replace k by Ay by L and just replace x by delta L. See, you will get the same answer, half Ay by L into delta L whole square, which is the same answer we got here. Half into Ay by L into delta L. Because you can treat the rod as a spring. Okay, understood? Now listen carefully. Suppose a rod is stretched by this mass m. A rod is stretched by this mass m, okay, and it is stretched very slowly. Okay, so if it is stretched very slowly, you will say that the work done by gravity is mg into delta L, because delta L length is traveled, okay, and the gravity force is mg, which is a constant. So force constant, that means what? Work is force into displacement, okay, mg delta L. In displacing delta L, what is the energy? What is the energy? Energy stored is half into stress. Now stress is mg by A, right? Into strain. Strain is delta L by original length, suppose L. Into volume. Volume is area of cross section multiplied by length. AL, okay, AL cancelled. So you will get mg delta L by 2. Okay. Now because it was moving very slowly, you will say that there is no change in kinetic energy. If there is no change in kinetic energy, then how is this possible that the work done by gravity is mg delta L, but the energy stored is only mg delta L by 2? Then where is the remaining energy mg delta L by 2? The remaining energy, that is the 50% of the energy, is lost in the form of heat. See, this remaining work is done against the external agency which is keeping it in equilibrium in the above case. See, if it is moving very slowly, then what are we assuming? We are assuming that at every instant it is in equilibrium. That is why it is moving very slowly. Okay, this does not happen in case of a spring. If a spring is released suddenly, so if a spring having a block of mass m is released suddenly, in that case what will you say? There is no external agent, so you will say that the remaining 50% energy is converted into kinetic energy, because here the block was moving very slowly, so you are doing work against this force which is keeping it in equilibrium. Okay, otherwise it will not move slowly. Understood? So see here, if the block is suddenly released, in that case, what will you say? All the work done by gravity should have been stored in the form of strain at maximum extension. So if the block is suddenly released, that means it is not moving slowly. In that case, all the work done by the gravity would have been stored in the form of elastic strain energy at the maximum extension. Because at the maximum extension, the kinetic energy becomes zero. So the energy means the work done by gravity will be stored as the strain energy. But if it is moving very slowly, see, in case of elasticity, in case of a rigid rod, actually it moves very slowly only, because we cannot see the movement, right? In spring we can see the movement, but in a rigid rod we cannot see the movement. So that is why in rigid rod we will say that mostly work done by gravity is mg delta L, but the energy stored is only half of it. The remaining energy is lost as heat. Okay, or you can say the remaining energy is lost in the work done against an external agent who is trying to keep this rod in equilibrium at every instant. All right, now again the analogy as a thing. So you know that Young's modulus is stress by strain, right? So y is equal to fl by a delta L, we know this, or f is equal to ay by L into delta L. Ay by L is a constant, which depends on the type of the material and the geometry of the rod. Okay, so K is also a spring constant which is dependent on the same things, the type of the material and the length and the geometry. So F is equal to K delta L. You can see the similarity with the spring, where if the spring is also stretched by the force F, then the restoring force developed on the spring will be also equal to K delta L. Here also it is K delta L. The value of K is AY by L. Okay, so suppose you are asked to find K equivalent. So if you are asked to find K equivalent, what will you say? See, here you have two rods. You just make it like two springs, and these two springs are in series. You know that in series K equivalent is K1 K2 by K1 plus K2. If you want to write K1, then K1 will be equal to, see, K is AY by L, right? So K1 will be equal to A1 Y1 by L1. K2 will be equal to A2 Y2 by L2. In this question again, see, you have one rod, two rod, three rods. Okay, and it is pulled by force F. Just what you will do is you will replace it with one spring, two spring, third. Where K1 is what? A1 Y1 by L1, K2 is A2 Y2 L2, and K3 is A3 Y3 by L3. What will you say here? These two are in series and then this resultant are in parallel. So you will write K equivalent is equal to K1 K2 by K1 plus K2 plus K3. In series, K equivalent is K1 K2 by K1 plus K2, and in parallel you have to add it. Okay, so just like springs, they can ask you the equivalent constant in the case of rod. Okay, now in this question, see, there is a hanger here and you have two rods, A1 Y1 L1, A2 Y2 L2. These rods are massless. This hanger is also massless, but there is a ball of mass M and it is falling from a height h and it is sticking to it. Okay, sticking to the hanger. Then they are asking you what is the maximum extension in the rod. This is the same question that we have done in spring, but this time it is for a rod. Okay, so what will you say here is, see, first we will find the K equivalent. K equivalent will be K1 K2 by K1 plus K2. I'll not write the values. You know that K1 will be equal to A1 Y1 by L1 and K2 will be equal to A2 Y2 by L2. Okay, now initially this hanger was at its natural length, or you can also call it mean position, because it was massless, so obviously it was not stretching. But as soon as this came, now what will happen? Suppose finally it reaches this point. This elongation is delta L. Okay, and at this point again the kinetic energy will become zero. Why the kinetic energy will become zero? Because this is the maximum extension. That means maximum extension means what? It is not stretching further. If it is not stretching further, that means at that point the kinetic energy has become zero. So you will say that loss in gravitational potential energy, loss in gravitational potential energy is equal to the gain in elastic potential energy. Here there is no gain in kinetic energy. Initially also kinetic energy was zero, and finally also the kinetic energy, gain in elastic potential energy. So loss in gravitational potential energy is mgh plus, see, from here to here, mgh plus delta L. Okay, and the gain in elastic potential energy is half into K equivalent into delta L. So from this you will solve for delta L. Okay, you will get a quadratic equation. You have to solve it. When they give you the values, it will be easier to solve. Now in this question, three wires are given to you, P, Q and R. The Young modulus of the first wire is YP and the area of cross section is AP. Similarly YQ, AQ, YR, AR. But it is given that the materials P and R are same. That means the Young's modulus is same. Okay. Now we need to find the tension in each string and the energy stored in the middle string. Okay. It is given that these two are equidistant from this rod, means this bar. Okay. So that means the tension in both of this will be same, and suppose the tension here is T1. Then by equilibrium you will say that T 2T plus T1 is equal to mg, right? Then Also, because the elongation of each wire is same, so we can write delta L is FL by AY, right? So you will write TL, suppose the length of each wire is L, so TL divided by APYP has to be equal to TL divided by AQYQ. So from this you have the relation, so this is T1 actually because this tension is T1. So from this you will have the relation TL gets cancelled out, divided by APYP is equal to T1 divided by AQ. Okay, now put the tension here, you will get T1. Okay, so you have two equations and two unknown. You can easily solve this when the values are given. Then they have also asked you what is the energy stored in the middle string. What is the energy stored in the middle string? The energy stored will be equal to half stress into strain into volume. That means T1 by A into AQ into strain. Strain is delta L by L, but strain, you know that stress is Y strain, right? Stress is equal to Y multiplied by strain. So strain can also be written as stress by Y. So I'll write again T1 by AQ Y. Okay, this is strain into volume. Volume will be AQ multiplied by length. Once you get the value of T1 from these two equations, just put it here. You will get the answer of energy stored in the middle string. Okay. Now, in this question, it is given that you have a rod which is pulled from both sides with a force F. That means a tensile force is given from both sides which is equal to force F. Okay, then what they are asking you in this cross section of the rod, what is the tensile stress in terms of F? A is the area of cross section of this rod, and theta. Okay, we need to find the tensile stress on this surface. Okay, also they are asking you for what value of theta is the tensile stress maximum. Similarly, they are also asking you for what value of theta is the shearing stress maximum. Okay, so what you will do is, suppose this is A. Now this is A is given, right? If this is A, this area is A sec theta. We know the area of the surface that we have to consider. Now, once we know the surface, the force F is like this, right? So the force F is and the component of force which is perpendicular to this given surface area is F cos theta. Because this angle is theta, that means this angle is 90 minus theta, that means this angle is 90 theta. And the force which is along the surface is F sine theta. Okay, now normal stress, that is the tensile stress, will be F cos theta divided by area is A sec theta. So that will come out to be F cos square theta divided by A. And the shearing stress will come out to be the shearing stress on this particular surface that we are talking about is equal to F sine theta divided by A sec theta. So that will be equal to F by A sine theta cos. Now they are asking you when the normal stress will be maximum. Normal stress will be maximum when cos square theta is 1, right? And that is theta is equal to 0. So normal stress will be maximum when theta is 0. This will be maximum when theta is 0. But from here you can write shearing stress is equal to F by A into, or you can write F by 2A into 2 sin theta cos theta, that is sin 2. So shearing stress is maximum when sin 2 theta is maximum. When sin 2 theta is maximum when theta is 40. Okay. So this is maximum when theta is 45. Because sin 90 is 1. Okay. Sin 2 theta has to be 1. Theta is 45. Okay. Now, in this question, it is given that you have a rod whose length is L, area of cross section is A, and the Young's modulus is Y. It is connected to a ball of mass m and they are rotated with an angular velocity omega about this axis. Then they are asking you what is the elongation in the rod. Okay, you can clearly see here that the tension is providing the centripetal. Okay, so if the tension is providing the centripetal force, you will say that tension is equal to m omega square L. This rod is massless. Okay, only this ball has mass. So the tension due to the rod is providing the centripetal force, and tension is same at every point in the rod because it is mass. So now once you get the tension, you will say stress is equal to y strain. So that means m omega square L divided by area is equal to y strain. Now y into strain is delta L by L. Now they have asked you delta L. They have asked you the elongation. The delta L is m omega square L square divided by ay. Now, in this question, it is given that there is a conical pendulum, okay, and this is a wire of length L, area of cross section A, and the Young's modulus Y. A ball of mass M is attached on this wire, and this wire is massless, and it is performing circular motion of radius r, where r can be written as L sine theta. Theta is the apex angle of this conical structure. Okay, now if you draw the FBD of this ball, you will see that there is a tension force here and there is a gravitational force. Now because this is performing a horizontal circle, that means the vertical force has to balance. Now this angle is theta, so you will say T cos theta is equal to mg, and T sin theta is providing the centripetal force. Now T sin theta will be equal to m omega square r, where r can be written as L sin theta. Okay, so T sin theta is equal to m omega square L sin theta. Theta theta cancel, you will get T is equal to m omega square L. Now once we get the value of tension, you can get the value of stress, and once you get the value of stress, you can get the value of strain using Hooke's law. Stress is equal to y strain. So from this we will get the value of the elongation in the wire. Now in this question it is given that we have two wires of length L and the Young's modulus and area cross section are y1a1 and y2a2 respectively. It is connected to a massless rod and there is a weight hanged on this rod. Okay, the weight is given as W and we need to find this X, that means where the weight should be hanged, such that there are first equal stress in both the wires and second equal strain in both the wires. Okay, these two wires here are equidistant, or you can say, you can assume that these two wires here are at the end of the rod. Okay, now the first equation will be, suppose the tension in this wire is T1 and the tension here is T2, then the first equation will be T1 plus T2 is equal to W. Then the second equation will be from this. So I'm solving first the A part of the question where there is equal stress. Now if there is equal stress, that means T1 by A1 has to be equal to T2 by A2. So from this you will get T1 by T2 is equal to A1 by A2. But T1 by plus T2 is W. So from this, when you solve these two equations, you will get T1 is equal to A1 by A1 plus A2 into W, and T2 is equal to A2 by A1 plus A2 into W. Okay, when you solve these two equations. Now the third equation will be the torque equation. You know that the torque has to be balanced in equilibrium. So if you balance the torque about this point, then there will be the torque of tension and the torque of tension T2. There will be no torque of this weight because this point, we are finding the torque about this point and the weight is acting about this point only. Okay. So in that case, you will say the torque due to T1 will be balanced by the torque due to T2. Suppose the distance between the two rods, two wires is L. In that case, you will say T1 into X will be equal to T2 into L minus X. So here we will write T1 into X is equal to T2 into L minus X. Okay, so now you have the value of T1 and T2. From this you can solve for X. Now the B part of the question says that there is equal strain. When there is equal strain, in that case you will say that T1 by A1 Y1 is equal to T2 by A2 Y2 by, because strain is what? Delta L by L, and delta L by L is how much? Stress by Y. Stress is T by A. So T by A Y has to be same. Okay, so in this case you will say that T1 by T2 is equal to A1 Y1 divided by A2 Y2. So in this case we have two equations again. T1 plus T2 is W, and T1 by T2 is A1 Y1 by A2 Y2. So this is equation 1, equation 2. So again, when you solve for T1 and T2, you will get T1 is equal to A1 Y1 divided by A1 Y1 plus A2 Y2 into W, and T2 will be equal to A2 Y2 divided by A1 Y1 plus A2 Y2 divide into W. And again you will write the torque equation as T1x, so this time suppose it is x prime, is equal to T2 into L minus x prime. This is the torque equation. So from this you will get the value of x in both the cases. Now the next question is a wire whose length is given as 2 meter and cross sectional area is 5 meter square. So we have a wire whose length is 2 meter and cross sectional area is 5 millimeter square. So area is 5 millimeter square, is suspended at one of its ends from a ceiling. So this is the ceiling. What will be its strain energy due to its own weight? So this time they are asking the strain energy due to its own weight. Now you know that at any point, we have discussed this before also, the tension will be equal to mgx by L, where this distance is x, which is measured from the bottom. Okay, so once we get the value of the tension, you will say that because the tension is variable here, so stress is variable. So stress is variable means strain is variable. So every part is elongating differently, right? So we have to take an element. So here I will take an element of width dx. Okay, now if we concentrate on this element of width dx, you will say that stress on this element is mgx by L divided by area of cross section, right? But we are not asked the elongation this time. What we are asked is the strain energy. Now you know that strain energy, so I'll write strain energy du is half into stress into strain into volume. So I'll write mgx by La is stress into strain. Now you know that stress is equal to y into strain, right? So strain can be written as stress by y. So I'll write this whole square into 1 by y. This is strain into volume. Now volume of this element will be area of cross section multiplied by dx. So this is the energy stored in the element. So from this you will get half into m square g square divided by L square a square y into a into x square dx. Now you will integrate this from x equal to 0 to x equal to L, and you will get L cube by 3. So you will get u is equal to 1 by 6 m square g square by 1a will get cancelled out, and L will come upwards because there will be L cube by 3, right? So this is L cube by 3. So divided by ay. So the answer will be 1 by 6 m square g square L divided by ay. Okay. So they have used the Young's modulus as D. So you can replace, sorry, they have used the density. Okay. So they've asked the answer in terms of density. So you can say that m by al is density, right? So you can write this as 1 by 6 into m square divided by a square L square. Okay, I'm just multiplying by a and divide. So here I'm multiplying by a, and numerator also I'm multiplying by a. Similarly, I'm multiplying by L squared in the denominator, and I will multiply by L square in the numerator. There is also one more L here, so it will become L cube divided by 1. Now this term is d square. Okay, so you will write 1 by 6 d square a L cube by, right? So 1 by 6 and there is one g square also. Yes, there is one g square also. Okay. Yeah. Now, next question is, a uniform bar of length L and cross-sectional area A is subjected to a tensile load F. So you have a uniform bar whose length is L and cross-sectional area is A, and there is a tensile load F. That means it is trying to stretch. If Y is the Young's modulus of the material and sigma is the Poisson's ratio, then find the volumetric strain. Now you know that F by A has to be equal to Y delta L by L. Okay, so from this you will say that delta L is equal to FL by AY. Right, we will assume that this rod is massless. Okay, now we also know that sigma, that is the Poisson's ratio, is minus of delta R by R divided by delta L by L, the lateral strain divided by longitudinal strain. So from this you will get delta L by L into sigma is equal to minus delta R by R. Okay, now you also know that they are asking you the volumetric strain. Okay, so that means they are asking you delta V by V. Now volume can be written as pi r square multiplied by L. So delta V by V can be written as 2 delta R by R plus delta L by L. So they have asked you this delta V by V, but delta R by R, we know that delta R by R is minus of sigma delta L by L. So you will get from here, this is equal to delta L by L common 1 minus 2 sigma. Okay, now see, delta L by L from here is F by AY, and they have asked you delta V by V only. So just replace delta L by L with F by AY. From here, delta L by L is F by AY. So the volumetric strain that will develop is F by AY into 1 minus 2 sigma. Okay. Now, next, some important points. First is breaking stress. What is breaking stress? So breaking stress is the breaking force per area of cross section. So that is the maximum stress or the maximum force that that object can handle. Breaking stress is a constant for a material. Breaking stress depends upon the area of cross section of the wire of a given material. So breaking stress and force will depend on the area of cross section of the wire. More the area of cross section of the wire, more is the breaking stress. Okay, the working stress is always kept lower than that of the breaking stress, so that safety factor is equal to breaking stress divided by working stress may have a larger value. What do you mean here is, suppose the tensile strength of a material is, suppose in terms of force, it is suppose 100 Newton, but the force that you will apply here will be less than 100 Newton, so that you give a safety factor to it, because there is something called elastic fatigue. With time the elasticity or the elastic power of the body keeps on decreasing. As you keep on putting the load, again removing it, again putting the load, again removing it, in this process the elastic nature decreases. Okay, so that is why, suppose now it is able to handle 100 kg of weight, but maybe after 1 year that might not be able to handle 1 kg of weight, sorry, 100 kg of weight. Okay, so that is why there is a safety factor which is always considered, and the safety factor is defined as the breaking stress divided by working stress. Working stress is always less than the breaking stress. Then there is breaking strain. Breaking strain is the elongation or compression divided by original dimension. Obviously strain is what? Change in dimension upon original dimension. Breaking strain is also a constant for a material. Then there are some more definitions. One is elastic after effect. So elastic after effect, as the name suggests, what does it mean is, it takes some time for the body to regain its original shape when the deforming force is removed. This delay in regaining the original configuration by the bodies on the removal of the deforming force is called the elastic after effect. Okay, we assume in our questions that the elastic after effect is 0. We assume that it means it comes back to its original position or original configuration as soon as the deforming force is removed. The elastic after effect is negligibly small for quartz fiber and phosphorus and bronze Okay. Then for this reason, the suspensions made from quartz and phosphor-bohrons are used in galvanometers and electrometers because they do not show elastic after effect, or they show minimal elastic after effect. For glass fiber, the elastic effect is very large. It takes hours for the glass fiber to return to its original state on the removal of deforming force. Then there is a term called elastic fatigue that we have already discussed. So elastic fatigue is the loss of strength of the material or loss of elasticity of the material due to repeated experiments, or you can say due to repeated strains on the material. Or you can say many times what you do is you put the weight on the body and then you again remove it, again you put the weight on the body, again you remove it. So with this process, in over time what happens is the elastic power of the body decreases, means the tendency to regain its shape decreases. Okay, so that is why bridges are declared unsafe after a long use of time. Why? Because of the elastic fatigue. Okay, then applications of elasticity. Some of the important applications of elasticity of the materials are discussed below. So one we have already seen here, bridges. The material used in bridges lose this elastic strength with time. Bridges are declared unsafe after long use. Second is to estimate the maximum height of a mountain. So using the concept of elasticity, we can find what can be the maximum height of the mountain. So the pressure at the base of the mountain will be rho gh, obviously. So that will be the stress at the base, because pressure is the compressive bulk stress, right? So pressure varies with height. We know that pressure varies with height. So the excess pressure at the base of the mountain will be rho gh. Okay. So the elastic limit of a typical rock is 3 into 10 raised to power 8 Newton per meter square. That means it can handle this much stress at max. Okay, for a typical rock. So therefore H must be less than, so stress is this, so 3 into 10 raised to power 8 divided by rho g. Now you know that the density of rock, okay, we will assume the density of rock is 3 into 10 raised to power 3 kg per meter cube, and g we know it will come out height as 10 kilometer. And it may be noted that the height of Mount Everest is nearly 8500, or you can say nearly 9000 kilometer. Okay, so the maximum height of the mountain can be approximately 10 kilometer, because after that the rocks that it has will not be able to handle the stress and it will fall down. Okay, now torsional constant of a wire. So in case of twisting of a wire or a cylinder, the torque required for twisting by an angle theta is given by tau is equal to c theta, where c is this torsional constant of a wire, or you can also call it elastic restoring couple per unit twist. So the torque required is c theta. Similarly, the work done in twisting an angle, means in twisting the wire by an angle theta, is half c theta square, where again c is the torsional constant, or you can say it is the elastic restoring couple per unit twist. The value of c is given by pi eta r power 4 divided by 12. L is again the length of the cylinder, r is the radius of the cylinder, and eta is the modulus of rigidity of the material of the cylinder. Now, variation of density with height. Suppose density of water at the surface of a lake is rho naught. So the density of water at the surface of a lake is rho naught. Okay. So this is the surface of the lake. And we need to find the density at a depth h. The bulk modulus of water is given as B. Sometimes they also give you compressibility. In that case, you will say that compressibility is equal to 1 by bulk modulus. So what we will do here is, see, at a height h or at a depth h, we will take a small element of width dh. Let the pressure here be P and the pressure here be P plus dP. Okay. So if you draw the FBD of this element here, then you know that force due to pressure is always perpendicular to the surface and it is always compressive. So here the pressure will be P, so force will be PA. Pressure multiplied by area is force. Similarly, here the pressure is P plus dP, so the force will be P plus dP into A, and it will be compressive. That means from this side the force will be like this, and from this side the force will be like this, because force due to pressure always compress the system. Whatever system that you have taken, force due to pressure will always compress that system, and the force will always be perpendicular to the surface. All right, now this element, this is in equilibrium, so the net force has to be zero. So the net force due to pressure has to be balanced by the force due to gravity. Now what will be the force due to gravity? Mg. M is what? Density into, suppose the area of cross section is A and the means width is dh, so you will say density into volume is density into A into dh. Density into volume is mass multiplied by gravity will give you the gravitational force. Okay, so from this you will get the force. Now if you balance the net force, you will say this two PA cancelled, so the net upward force is dPA, and here the net downward force is rho A dH into G. So from this you will get dPA is equal to rho A dH into G. AA will get cancelled out, so dPA is equal to rho A dH into G. A cancelled out, you will get dP is equal to rho G dH. So we have one relation, dP is equal to rho G dH. Now you know that bulk modulus, I'll again repeat, bulk modulus, see, delta P is equal to minus B delta V by V. We have discussed this in the last class. Okay, then bulk modulus can be written as minus delta P by delta V into 1 by, or you can say into V. Now delta P by delta V can also be written as dP by dV for small change. Okay, because normally the change is small. Okay, so you can write like this, B is equal to minus dP by dV into V. Also you know that density is mass upon volume. Mass is a constant, but density is varying because volume is varying, right? So you can say that density is directly proportional to V power minus 1. Now if density is directly proportional to V power minus 1, what will you say in this case? In this case you will say that d rho upon rho is equal to minus dV upon V. This is the same thing that we always do, y proportional to x power m. Then delta y by y can be written as m delta x by x for a small change. That is what we have done here. M is minus 1. Okay, so you can write d rho upon rho is equal to minus dV upon V. Okay, in that case you will say that the bulk modulus, see, dP by dV into V, right? Now d rho by rho is equal to minus dV by V. So this dV by V and this minus can be written as d rho by rho. So it will become minus dP into d rho by rho. Okay, sorry, minus dP into divided by d rho by rho. From this you will get d rho by rho is equal to 1 by B into dP can be written as rho G dH. So from this you will get d rho by rho square is equal to 1 by B into G into dH. Now at h equal to 0, that means at the surface, the density is rho naught, it is given in the question. And at any height h, suppose the density is rho. So in this case you will say that rho is equal to rho naught B by B naught, sorry, rho naught B by B minus rho naught GH. So this is the variation of density with height. Hello students, if you like my work, do hit the like button and share my work with your friends. Also, please subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon. You'll be notified when I upload my next video.